Hi everybody, and welcome to this video on gringabruja.com that is going to cover protection and how to take care of yourself. In my line of work as a bruja in my store, I'm asked some pretty predictable questions. Most of the people who come into the shop and ask for help usually have specific subjects on their minds. One is, how do I get this person to love me? Or how do I draw love into my life? Love is a very strong subject in our shop. Another one is, how do I get the junk out of my house? How do I get my house cleansed out and purified and back to being sacred space after some kind of trauma has been through it, or just because it's gotten funked up from tension and anger, or just the day's life that comes through it. Another thing I'm asked a lot is about protection. And protection is a very strong subject in the Hispanic community. Um, they still struggle with a lot of the biases of the world, and also they live within a very magical community. And so, as they become angry with one another, sometimes they retaliate magically. There isn't the, how can I put it? There isn't the prejudice against working magically against one another within the brujeria community that there is in some of the other magical communities. It's a whole other mindset. And so if they suspect that someone is working against them, they often will want to retaliate. And so they'll come in and ask, how can I protect myself? Or how can I reverse this energy that's there? And it's my job to help them do that. So sometimes the protection isn't that critical. It's not a matter of somebody has sent this to you. It's a matter of it's just coming your way. Sometimes there's just a run of bad luck, or something's just going on that you want to shift and change. You feel like you went down a wrong path. Another thing that can happen is you have a conflict with someone where they're not attacking you magically, but they're just all up in your grill, or they're just creating uh, situations that interfere with your quality of life in some way. This can be a problem at work, it can be a bad neighbor. And within the concept of brujeria, as I practice, there is not a negative connotation to defending yourself. And there's not a turn the other cheek kind of um, mindset. What happens is that you take care of yourself. And what part of what my shop does at the Botanica de la Reina is we teach people to take care of themselves magically and take care of themselves in a practical way. So they come in distressed and distraught over some situation. Myself or Baby Bruja or Poppy Bruja will sit down and talk to them and find out exactly what's going on and figure out a plan for how we can help them feel empowered and how they can take care of themselves, because that's what we want to have happen. We want that person to leave the shop not feeling like a victim, feeling like they've taken back their own strength and their own power and can make changes in their life magically and mundanely to protect themselves. So this particular video is going to be about protection and how to protect yourself. And there are a lot of products you can use. Many of them you can make yourself. So this is not just a sales pitch, although we do sell the items too, should you need them. Um, but a lot of the items you can make yourself or have around your house and use for your own protection. In fact, truth be told, even though the products that we make are quite powerful and very organic um, in what we create, it often has more power if the person who's going to use them is the one to create them, because then your energy and your intention is going into it as you're making it. So let's talk about some of the things that you can do. Sometimes when you have a difficult neighbor or even a difficult roommate, you have to create boundaries. And not everybody is really good at establishing boundaries. And that's a very important part of social interaction, is creating boundaries. And there are sayings, plenty, that talk about the creation of boundaries. And one of them is that we teach people how to treat us. Or another one would be to believe who a person is when they show you the first time. Those are both very good pieces of advice. And sometimes what happens is that in the beginning of a relationship, whether it's with a spouse or a roommate or even a child that we have, we want to be their friend. We want to put our best foot forward. And so we end up giving to them more than what we would give on a normal day-to-day basis. And they begin to establish expectations based on, quite frankly, what we've shown them. And then we get into this weird loop where we don't have boundaries anymore because we set a standard we couldn't live up to. That's another way we want to start protecting ourselves and creating boundaries. So there's all kinds of relationship issues that can come up where we need to create boundaries between ourselves and another person. Sometimes we need to create a boundary that's strong enough that they don't even mess with you or come in your radar anymore. So I've got some products over here that I'm going to show you, and we're going to talk about each one and how to use them so that you can create some effective boundaries in your life, and then we'll move on to the deeper protections. One of the best protections or boundary makers that I have found is the use of black chicken feathers. Black chicken feathers are a standard traditional hoodoo practice to create fences or boundaries between you and another person. The reason for this is that chickens, and I raise chickens, so I absolutely know, chickens are assholes. Chickens are completely territorial and very vicious when anything invades their area. If you want a really good example of this, try bringing other full-grown chickens to integrate into an existing flock of chickens. They lose their minds. The exception to this is if you bring them in at night after the chickens are roosting and put the adult chickens into the chicken coop while the other chickens are somewhat dormant and asleep. They wake up and think they were there all the time. That's how smart chickens are. But they are very territorial, and so their feathers contain some of this territorialism. So you can take black chicken feathers and put them in a line between your home and a neighbor's home, for instance, or just lay them around your office in a protective line. It doesn't have to look really spooky or anything. You can just put one on each side of the door. But the chicken feathers are a very nice boundary maker. You always want to use an odd number of the chicken feathers. I usually like to use 5 or 7, depending on how big of an area I'm trying to cover. So remember, chicken feathers, a very good creation or boundary. The simplest one you can use is this. This is just regular old sea salt. Now you can use table salt, you can use rock salt. The purer the salt, the better the boundary is going to be. Now this is the same salt you would use, for instance, in old times when they said they would salt the earth after something happened there that they didn't want to have happen again, or perhaps to keep somebody from coming up back from the dead. They would salt the earth. And this is a similar practice. Salt is very, very purifying, and it cleanses an area and takes away the negativity and takes away the threat that can be there. It's a neutralizing of a threat. So you would just take your little sea salt and just kind of sprinkle it all around the outer perimeter of your home. If you live in an apartment building, you can put it, what I do, I pry up the threshold of the house and I put my boundary under the threshold, and then I put the threshold back down because that's an immediate protection right there. You can put it into carpet if it's just outside of, say, your bedroom door where you want to create a boundary. But sea salt is your first level of defense. Very simple magic. It's effective, but it's not your highest level. So you would do this just for general purposes, or if you're having a minor skirmish with somebody. If you really want to pull out your big guns, sea salt wouldn't be it, but it's a good start. Now, one of the things I tell people when they come into my shop is that magic is like medicine. You're not going to bring a knife to an Uzi fight. You want to make sure you're starting out with your lowest level of treatment possible. When you're treating a person medically, you're not going to give them the most intense painkiller if a Tylenol would work. And so what we tend to do is start off low level and build if we need to. And a lot of times people just want to come in with guns blazing when that's not quite the level at which they need to work. Once you disseminate some of the emotion that's attached to that, you can see that it's probably a pretty simple problem. Now, some of them, yeah, they need some heavier stuff. But we usually try to start out with something simple like the sea salt or our next product, which is cascarilla. Cascarilla is a brujeria product. It is actually ground, finely ground eggshells. And what you do is you take your eggshells and you have one coffee grinder. Get one at a thrift store or pay your $10, $15 for a simple coffee grinder. Put X's on it or paint it or mark it in some way so that people know that this is not to grind coffee in. And this will be for your magical herbs. And there's nothing better to pulverize your herbs. And something like a molcajete is great if you want to just grind and grind and grind. But if you want it done quickly, put it in the coffee grinder. And for mine that I make, I'm telling you, I grind the crap out of this. I'll run it through 4, 5, 6 times to get it super powdery. And you take the cascarilla and you use it exactly the same as the sea salt. You just reach in, and this stuff is like flour. It's really powdery, but you just sprinkle it all along the areas you want to protect. Cascarilla is also, like I said, it's a lower level boundary protection, and it's used for a lot of other products. In fact, in voodoo, they'll sometimes, in Santeria, they'll sometimes use the cascarilla as it is hardened almost into a chalk to draw the veves to honor the Loa and the Orishas. But in this case, we're just using the powder, and we're just going to put it along any borders that we want to mark. It'll work very, very well. And it's a very inexpensive product and one that's really super easy to make yourself. So that would be your next level. From there, we can start to really escalate a little bit higher. For instance, this is a product that, let's just go with this one. This is probably your next move, and this would be red brick dust. Now, if you watched the movie The Skeleton Key with, what's her name? Goldie Hawn's daughter. Come on, help me out here. It'll come to me. Blonde, beautiful. I'm looking at her. Anyway, Skeleton Key. Look it up. Skeleton Key, they use brick dust extensively. And this girl, there's this one scene where this chick has got a trough of brick dust. So much brick dust. I have people come into my shop and they say, why is your brick dust so expensive? And it's just red clay brick dust. And when you look at it, I don't know if you can see this. The price, can you get it? The price is actually $5 an ounce. And we make this ourselves. And one of the people that I asked, that asked me, well, why is this so expensive? I actually brought them to my house and had them make brick dust with me. Our bricks are from a 100-year-old barn, actually, that's up here in Grizzly Flats, that we pull the red clay bricks and pulverize them. And you have not lived until you've beaten up some bricks and gotten it as fine as this is. There's a lot of drilling and a lot of banging with hammers, and it is hard, hard work. So that's why brick dust costs a buttload of money. That's also why you're not going to see the trough of brick dust pretty much anywhere, because it's very labor intensive to make that. So Kate Hudson, that's who she is. Anyway, but you can get brick dust, and you don't need a whole lot of it because brick dust is really pervasive. Brick dust is a very strong barrier, and brick dust is in fact what I use at my shop. Anybody who comes into my shop, look down as you walk in the door at the threshold, and you will see a buttload of brick dust all across the thresholds. What this does for my shop is it makes sure that anybody who's coming into that shop is intended to be there. There's some reason why they're coming in on a magical basis. And it weeds out a lot of people who aren't supposed to be there, or who would be coming in to throw shade or be difficult. And I know that I'm going to have nice people in. And so when that happens, when I've got my brick dust down, I can trust that the people who are coming in are going to be easy to work with in terms of their disposition, that I'm supposed to be working with them on a spiritual level. I don't have to do a lot of screening. If I got my brick dust up, the brick dust does it for me anyway. And I have people come in and laugh at that. They'll say, well, that can't be true. How does that happen? I'll say, you know what? Sit down. Sit in the white chair next to my desk and watch what happens. And you can see people walk up to the door, start to come in, and turn around and walk away all day long. It's not that they're bad people. They just were not meant to be there. It wasn't their day to come in the shop. We have people that will come in and say, I walked past the shop for a year and a half and never came in, and I'm so glad I did. I really like it here. Hey, it wasn't their time yet. So brick dust is your friend, and you can use it the same way at your house. I don't use brick dust at my house because I don't need that level of protection in my home. But if you live in a place where you do need that level of protection, put the brick dust down and watch what happens. With any of these barriers, like the salt and like the cascarilla and like the brick dust, you especially want to get it over the threshold. Somebody's going to have to walk in through and over to get to your home. Now, the other items, such as the cascarilla and the sea salt, sprinkle around the full interior or exterior of your home to create a boundary all the way around it. Brick dust, I wouldn't do that because it's very expensive, and you can just protect the areas you want to protect. If you've got a garage area or a shed area that you're worried that somebody's going to break into it, put a little bit of brick dust across the threshold. Put this across the threshold of your home, and it'll help protect you. Now, same thing as with the other items. If you live in an apartment, or you have a roommate, you only rent a room, you can put it across the door of your room space as well. You can put it under the threshold, you can grind it into the carpet, it won't leave a stain. You can just rub it in there with your foot and it'll work very, very well. So that's, again, brick dust, very effective protection product. Now we can step up from there. I'm going to grab some of these because sometimes you want to work a little bit harder, not just on creating boundaries, but on protecting your body yourself as you walk around, because it's not always just your home or your areas that you want to protect. You also sometimes literally want to get rid of somebody who's in your life who's a toxicity or a constant irritant, and you have the right to do that. You can banish someone from your life because you're saying, this just isn't a good situation anymore. There are certain herbs that you can use for a protection bath. This one happens to be in a little, like a muslin bag, and you use it like a tea bag, except you use it in your bath. And this has salts in it, which work the same way that the salts under your door work, and oils and herbs that are specifically protective. You would run some warm water, throw this little sucker into the bath water, let it steep just like a tea bag, and then you get in and just immerse yourself in the protection as far as you can get in, up to your shoulders, hopefully, and just be there and visualize that you're protected and that you're safe, that nothing can harm you. And these herbs and aromatherapy help to support that magically. So the protection bath is another way. If you go online, look up protection bath recipes, you can find a lot of different herbs and oils that are safe to do this with. Make sure that they are skin safe products. You don't want to have cinnamon in there, for instance, which can get very irritating. Now, another thing we can use is what's called an uncrossing bath. And that's something else that you can research the recipe, or just buy one online. It works the same way like a tea bag, but the uncrossing bath is if you are pretty sure that something's been set your way, some kind of negative energy or negative magic has been sent towards you. The uncrossing magic, including the bath, can help to reverse that, or to clear away any unwanted magical influence that has been sent your direction. And honestly, it's very rare that people that come to me and think that they're cursed, or thinks that they've been hexed, or that somebody has worked against them. It's rare that it actually has happened, but sometimes it does, and you just don't know if this is one of those times. And the nice thing about working uncrossing magic is it doesn't harm anyone. If you're doing uncrossing magic, you're affecting yourself. You're working on yourself and simply removing any unwanted magical attachment that might be there. So it's a very karmically fail-safe way to take care of yourself and cleanse away anything that might have hit you, even inadvertently. Then we get more aggressive. Now, this is one of the most popular products in my shop. This is called Bitch Be Gone. Bitch Be Gone powder. It's actually a pretty decent smelling product, unlike some of the other banishing products we have. Is effective in getting rid of bitches in your life. And I've even used this on myself. If you know how sometimes we just wake up and you're like, man, I am being such a punk today. I am just really not in my best self. Something's making me really, really bitchy, and I'm not comfortable being this way. I've used the Bitch Be Gone in my own shoes, or just sprinkled it around me to help get rid of the bitch inside me. You can also put it outside somebody's door so that they walk across it. That's what we do with most of our magical powders, because there's a magic that happens when they walk through it. It's taking them into a new portal or into a new space if they walk through something that it has magical intent. The Bitch Be Gone can also be put around candles. It can be put into mojo bags and like tossed or buried in somebody's yard. But it gets rid of the bitches in your life, because as we all know, bitches be tripping. There's also a candle that goes with this. It can be helpful. This is another tool. It's also very popular in our shop. This is a loose incense, and it's called Gtfo Incense. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, which you probably are, you might know some internet lingo, so you know what Gtfo means. The first two, it's an acronym, and the first two words are get the last word is out. The third word starts with an F. So this is when you just really want people to get the out of your life, or out of your way, or whatever it might be. Now, I tend to put the intention in there that these people, when you are banishing them, get a lovely reason to move to another state, or to get another job, or to get out of your sphere of influence because you have made a determination that this is a toxic situation and that there's nothing more that can be gleaned from this people being in your life, or they're causing such an irritation that you need to remove them from your life. So Gtfo incense, burn it on hookah charcoals, little black charcoals that are about this big around. Light one side, it'll start to sparkle. Put it down on some dirt, it'll spark all the way across. Put this on it, it smells amazing and gets the job done. They do not have to be around while you're burning this. All you do is burn it, focus on the person. You can even take a photograph of the person or the person's name and put it under the container that you're burning this in, and just really focus on them just leaving your life. Now, the final and greatest, biggest banishing tool is this stuff. This is called Goofer Dust. Now, my mentor, when I started working hoodoo and started working brujeria, said to me, there is absolutely no benevolent use for Goofer Dust. And I don't sell a lot of Goofer Dust, fortunately. It's not something that people usually come down to needing. Usually the other products can get this done first. But Goofer Dust is a traditional recipe, and mine is made from a traditional recipe. Weirdly, I had somebody just recently say, you know, somebody was saying that your Goofer Dust isn't traditional. And this is a hoodoo standard of people cutting down other people's product. It's just what little people do. But this is a traditional recipe. It's made from things like sulfur and cayenne powder and dead insects and things like that. The Goofer Dust is specifically to remove people from your influence. Ideally, I'm not opening this, by the way, because this is a very powerful tool, and even smelling it, breathing it in, having it around you puts it into action. And this is something I really don't want to have into action. My husband hates when I tell this story, but he never watches my videos, so it doesn't matter. But the week that I worked with the Goofer Dust and put it all together, I made enough for what I hoped would be 2 or 3 years worth of Goofer Dust selling, because like I said, it's not that popular. I made a lot of Goofer Dust that week. And I thought we were going to get a divorce because we were fighting so much. And we don't fight as a rule. We very rarely have conflict. And I couldn't figure out what is going on. Why is there all this weirdness around? And then I remembered, guess what? You just spent like 2 days making Goofer Dust, which is a highly powerful irritant. It gets rid of people. So it's definitely an effective tool. So what you would do with the Goofer Dust, and again, it's pretty expensive too, because again, it's a challenge to make and remain sane. And it's you want to make sure that when you use it, you don't breathe it in, don't get it on your clothes, don't get it on your skin. You're just going to dump it and run. So you would put this on somebody's doorstep or in their yard or someplace where you suspect they are going to walk, because you want them to walk through it for it to be effective. And that's what you do with Goofer Dust. You would never put Goofer Dust into a mojo bag that you're going to hold on to, and you never, ever, ever put Goofer Dust on anything of yours, anything you own, or anybody that you like. It's a powerful tool, but it's something that can be very effective when you are just at the end of the rope on dealing with somebody and they just need to be gone. I've had nothing but success stories from this in the 2 years that I've been carrying it. So those are some ideas for some products that you can use to protect yourself and to remove people from your life. Candle work is always a positive. Also, in this realm, there are protection candles that you can use. St. Michael, for instance, very protective. St. George candles are very protective. Um, our Holy Mother candles are protective. You can also use reversing candles, which is a whole other video altogether, to learn how to reverse the energy of a situation that seems to be going down a wrong path. So those are some ideas for protection. I hope those help you. I hope you're never in a situation where you need protection. If you do, drop us a line at gringabruja.com, and we're happy to give you some advice. And also, if you go to botanicadelarena.com, you can find the products that I've discussed that are available to you. Take care and stay protected.